Hello, so this is our second lesson on the 5 factors of design. And in this lesson, I'm going to cover ergonomics. So the question arises, what is ergonomics? Well, an ergonomic product is easy to use, and ergonomics describes the activity of making a product easy to use, right? And what does this mean? Well, it means that products are intuitive to use, that we understand how to use them. In fact, I've got a list here. And that an ergonomic product is comfortable and it's a good fit and it's easy to understand, easy to manipulate. You can pull it and press the buttons and reach all the switches and things like that. And it's also easy to interface with. Our hands and our fingers and our feet can all touch it. Okay. Now, when we're talking about ergonomics at National 5 level, we're considering three different aspects. We're considering anthropometric data, or simply put, anthropometrics. And these are numbers, and this is data which describes the size and shape of humans. Things such as the length of your arm, your overall height, how far apart your eyeballs are, etc., etc. That's all to do with anthropometric data. We consider comfort as well. We consider how comfortable, how easy and pleasing a product is to hold or manipulate. And we also consider safety. Products naturally must not harm the user, and they must be built to meet legal requirements and safety laws. So if we're going to become a successful designer, we have to be good at ergonomics. All the very best designers in the world are. So what I'd like you to do now is pause the video, and I'd like you to copy that slide into your jotter or into your notes. Okay, let's move on. Quite often, you'd be asked to look at a product, perhaps in an exam paper or perhaps part of your design project, and study the ergonomics of it. You may be asked a question like this: how has ergonomics influenced this product? When you come to think about it, you must frame your answer according to those three things that we've just discussed: anthropometric data, comfort, and safety. So we're asking ourselves, how does anthropometrics influence the ergonomics? How does comfort influence the ergonomics? And how does safety influence the ergonomics? Let's look at some answers then. So for that torch, let's look first of all at anthropometrics. We're looking at the dimensions and the sizes of the torch, and we're comparing them to sizes of the human body. It's dead important that when you're asked a question and you're going to answer about anthropometric data, you have to talk about the size of the object and link it to the size of the human body. So for example, I've said that the overall diameter of the torch is linked to the hand grip size of a human. How, the sort of size that we can comfortably grip. I've said that the position of the button is linked to the length of a finger, and that the length of the string at the back of the torch has to be linked to the size of a human wrist, so that a wrist could fit through it. Dead important that something, a dimension about the product must be linked to a size of the human body. Comfort's next. So in terms of comfort, the torch is wrapped in rubber, and that gives us a comfortable grip. That makes it easy to use. That it's comfortable and it's easy to unscrew and replace the batteries. It's not like that has us contorting or twisting in any sort of weird way. And that the switch has a kind of pleasing resistance to it. It gives it a nice positive click, and that's a comfort factor as well. In terms of safety, two things come to mind: that it's an electrical component and it has been insulated in plastic, so we're not going to get constant electric shocks from it. And also that I guess that the lens, the glass in the front of the torch, is probably toughened. It's probably some sort of safety glass. So it's key to remember that when you come to answer questions about ergonomics, make sure you mention all three of those areas. We'll pause the video now, and I'd like you to copy that slide into your notes. Okay, let's move on. We're going to go one step further now. now that we understand what anthropometrics is, the size and shape of humans, we've got a further problem to consider here. If humans are all different sizes, right, how do you decide what size to make something? Shoe manufacturers, they've got it easy because they have to consider that there are a whole range of human-sized feet in the world, from little toddlers to massive athletes and basketball players. So what do shoe manufacturers do? They just make shoes in different sizes, right? But what if you're not somebody who can make things in different sizes? What, for example, if you're the designer of that stretcher that's on screen just now? How long do you make that stretcher? There's a balancing act to be had here, right? Because if you make it long enough so that the world's tallest man can fit on it, then it's going to be too expensive to produce. It's going to be too much material in it. You might need to make it stronger. It might then become heavier. It might take more people to carry it as well. So there's a definite balancing act, okay? And you'll find that designers quite often make products so that not everyone can actually fit on them. Anyway, the act and the activity of doing that is something called percentiles, and that's what we're going to visit right now. Right, so percentiles. Let's talk about human height for one, okay? I've got a graph here, and this is a graph of the height of every adult in the whole wide world in meters. And we can see that at 0.8 meters, that's somebody who's very tiny. There's hardly any of them in the world, okay? Maybe a few thousand, maybe a few tens of thousands, something like that. We then get to people who are maybe a metre tall or 1.2 metres tall, and we've got more of them, okay? That's closer to the average, so we've got more of them going on there. Again, more people are 1.4 and 1.6 metres tall. So we're getting into the sort of range that I am, okay? And now what happens is, you see that as we go higher than that, as we go past the average, we start to get fewer people. So there are fewer people in the world that are 1.8 metres tall. Probably a few billion, mind you. And so the curve starts to dip down again, okay? 2.2 metres tall, that's really quite tall, okay? There's hardly any of them in the world, and there's even fewer people who are 2.4 metres tall. Now, it doesn't matter what you measure about the human body. It can be leg length, it can be hand size, it can be ear length. You'll get this distribution of sizes. You'll get people clustered around the middle, around the average. And at the very extreme left and the very extreme right, you'll have hardly anybody. And in fact, this is a special type of curve called the bell curve. And this kind of distribution affects anything that you measure about humans. So let's get back to that stretcher design then. How does a designer know what size to make that stretcher? Well, it's got something to do with human height, because humans will be lying down on the stretcher, right? They're not going to make it 2.4 metres long, because there's hardly anybody in the world for that. What they do is to think about percentiles. Now you can put a line on this graph, a kind of dotted line, right? To the left of that dotted line is 5% of the world's population, and we call that the 5th percentile. So to the left of that dotted line, 5% of the world's population, and everybody else is to the right of that line. Designers also talk about the 95th percentile, right, which is on the second dotted line that I've put in the graph here. Now, to the left of that dotted line is 95% of the world's population. To the right of it is only 5%. You hear designers talking about the 95th percentile and designing products to meet the 95th percentile. That means that they're happy if 95% of the world's population can fit on it or can use their product. And in fairness, the rest of the people to the right of that line, they'll probably just ignore. That's kind of the way it is, I'm afraid. So if you're an 8-foot tall person, hard luck. So that's what the designer does. The designer wants 95% of the world's population to fit on that stretcher. She's not interested in the giants of the world, just 95% of everybody else. So she makes it 2 metres long. Okay, let's wind back a little bit, because I want you to copy that slide into your jotter. And I would like you to copy that slide into your jotter as well. Pause the video just now while you do that. Okay, so that's a kind of whistle-stop tour of what ergonomics is, about ease of use. It's about anthropometrics, comfort and safety, and we also touched on the idea of percentiles as well. Remember a few slides ago I also told you how to answer a question. Remember the slide about the torch? Okay, well here is something lifted from a past paper from 2019. This is a classic sort of question about ergonomics. The question says, describe how ergonomics may have influenced the design of this iron and ironing board, and it's worth 4 marks. So you can choose the iron or the ironing board. In fairness, it's probably wise to make sure that you write about both the iron and the ironing board. And you've got to make 4 points here. You've got to look for 4 things or 4 areas where ergonomics has influenced the design. It may be anthropometrics, it may be in comfort, and it may be in safety. And do remember that when you come and answer this question, if you are talking about anthropometric data, make sure you link it to a size of the human body. So have a go at this, pause the video just now. You can always go online to the SQA's website and find the marking instructions, the answers to this question. Good luck.